Hello, my name is Zachary Carling, and I am the ASYC President here at Yuba College, working with the prospector to find out more about our current Yuba College President, Tawny Dotson. Thank you for meeting with me today, Tawny.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, I'd like to start out with just getting some background questions about yourself. So just tell us basically where you're from and what colleges did you attend and what degrees do you hold?
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm originally from Albany, Oregon, a small town on the I-5 corridor, about 8 hours from where we are right now. I graduated in 1998 and immediately left, went to Washington State University for my bachelor's degree. While I was there, I was in the Air Force ROTC program. So when I graduated in 2002 with my bachelor's degree in communications, I also got a commission in the Air Force and went on active duty. Initially, that was my first real job, if you set aside my teenage employment at Candy Time and Camelot Music, which I know is kind of outdated now. But
definite resume builders.
yeah, absolutely. I have a master's degree from the University of Missouri. It's in strategic communication with an emphasis in journalism, and my doctorate from Oregon State University, which is in education and an emphasis in community college leadership.
Nice. So when you were starting out in college and finishing those degrees, is this the place you thought you'd end up at?
I had no idea I would be in education. For me, I went to college because I knew I needed to do something different. Most of the rich people I knew had gone to college, and quite frankly, that was sort of at the center of my challenges was money. And so I wanted to make a different life for myself. But I also had no way to pay for college. I didn't understand financial aid. I didn't understand the things that were available to me. So I turned to a recruiter to try and help me to pay for college because I heard the military would do that. It turned out to be a great opportunity for me, but I went to college on largely a scholarship, or a portion of it, a scholarship from the Air Force. And I thought that I'd be on active duty forever. My husband and I, though, we had started having children, and we were in the middle of a war. And deployments made it very difficult for us to be there for our son and for each other. We were gone a lot, and so I realized it wasn't going to be a long-term option for me. I needed to be there for my son. So I transitioned from active duty into the reserves. I've been serving for about 18 years now. When I got out of the Air Force, the thing I knew is that I wanted to be in a job that made a difference. Live a life of service, do something that was bigger than me. I learned that when I was in the military, that there are jobs, and then there are careers and opportunities for you to really be doing something bigger. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So my first job when I got off of active duty was making a difference in education. And from the minute I started, I knew I was in the right place. And the rest, they say, I guess, is history.
So that's quite the journey you got there so far. How would you say you've been adjusting here, taking on this new role as president?
Yeah. Well, first, I've lived here before. I was stationed at Beale right out of college. This was my first duty station. But at the time that I lived here, I didn't have kids and I wasn't yet married. So I lived in apartments. It's a different experience than when you're married with children and have to do things a little bit differently. So the adjustment has been different because I knew what I was getting into climate-wise. It's part of what I love about here is I actually like the heat. Even in the middle of summer, I really enjoy it. We're also moving here from Washington, so it was very rainy there. I'm ready to be thawed out a little bit with the heat here. It's been good. The job's been good. It's different, right? I have been working toward becoming a college president for a long time, and so in my mind there were a lot of things that would happen and ways that it would happen. Becoming a college president in the middle of a pandemic means, like everyone, I'm having to rethink what those look like. Engaging, trying to understand how programs work, meeting faculty to make those connections looks a lot different. I'm certainly on Zoom a lot, and learning about programs in new ways, frequently online and doing some reading and meeting that way instead of face-to-face. But I think that that is building what we all need to build, and that is some resiliency in realizing that there are other ways to do things. We've been a little bit innovative, and that's been a good thing too.
So, what brought you here specifically to Yuba? How did you find out about the job opening? Was it your experience at Beale that made you choose this college position specifically?
Yeah, well, we've lived in a lot of places, California, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Maryland for a period of time. And I knew that there were a few things I was looking for. One is I wanted to be someplace that was a little bit more rural. I've worked at colleges that were in an urban setting where there are a lot of options, a lot of things for people to do. And I've worked at rural colleges when I was in Oklahoma. And the thing that I think is great about a setting like this that's a little bit more rural is that the community college is really the community's college. The environment, the city, the people that live there are used to this being, our city, our county, our community. And when things happen, everybody's ready to chip in because you feel a little bit more like a team and a family when those are your college or your, friends, your neighbors. It's a little bit easier in an urban setting to forget that because there's a lot of options in front of you. So really, as we were approaching my husband's retirement from active duty, we were looking to live in certain places, and this was one of them because we had lived here before. We lived both at Beale and at Travis Air Force Base, so we knew a lot about the communities, had lived here before, and so it was a place that was kind of on our short list, if you will. And so when the job posted, I had been looking, and I was immediately interested. But I will tell you, the process for becoming the college president is long. It's a couple of months long. It gives you a chance to do a lot of research to better understand the community and what's happening there. And I think it was that process that really drew me to saying this is the right job. It was the things that I learned about what was happening at Yuba College and the opportunities that existed there. It was the things that I learned about the community that really drew me here as well. There is some incredible opportunities to make a huge impact and a difference in Yuba and Sutter counties, and that's really what I want to do and where I want to be, and I think for me that's the biggest draw.
Nice. In your welcome letter, you said, "Our mission is to prepare a diverse student population to excel in a rapidly changing, interdependent world." How do you think Yuba College has accomplished this thus far, and how do you plan to further that goal?
Absolutely. So working at an institution of education, everything that we do is about learning and improving. And I think that the college has done an incredible job creating a place where students can see that their educational and life goals can be accomplished through what exists here at the college. Although I hate saying we've accomplished that mission because what we're really about at a learning institution is doing it and then doing it a little bit better, that continual improvement. So for me, I think the next steps for us are to really come to a clear and shared definition around what student success really means for our students and for our community, and to use that definition to refine how we do our work, to make sure that we are assessing the outcomes of what we're doing, not just in our classrooms, but at the college as a whole, and to help students to drive in that direction as much as we can. Certainly students are going to need to do the work to reach those goals, but we're your partners in that. We're about creating the place and the space for you to learn, and if you're going to be ready to commit to doing that, we're going to be ready to be your partners.
I'm glad to hear that. Could you go into any detail on specifics that you plan to implement to achieve those objectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'll share with you is it's really important to me to create a culture where we are all Yuba College proud. It's important to me that you are coming to a place either to learn or to work, that you love what you're doing, you love where you're doing it, and you love who you're doing it with. And so that's taking some time to make sure that we have the spaces, whether that's in our classrooms or in our campus buildings, that make us all proud. That's taking some time to create a culture amongst our students, having the kind of involvement activities that makes them want to come here and stay here and succeed here. And the same for our faculty and staff. I want them to love what they're doing and who they're doing it with. And so we're putting some things into place to make that happen. One example is I'm asking people to wear blue and gold on Mondays, as you know. We're trying to have spirit days even from a distance when possible. We're asking people to share, whether that's through social media or through their networks, through their conversations with family and friends about the great things that are happening here. We're also taking a look at our facilities, reprioritizing where we're putting our energy and effort to make sure that our buildings are welcoming and safe as students and community members interact with us, and to make sure that the classrooms inside are the right spaces for students to be able to learn and faculty to be able to teach. And those are, some really important things that we're doing. We're also doing a little bit of work to establish dashboards so that we can create a shared understanding of who we're serving as an institution, who we're not yet serving as an institution, and how they're doing while they're here. And I think that shared foundation and understanding of what's happening with our students and our prospective students will help us to better define what we need to do to make a difference on their student success journey.
Thank you. Now, if I could press you further for more details,
Sure.
let's talk about this semester, like specifically in this and perhaps next semester. What do you want to have done by the end of this semester, or end of next semester too?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now we're putting in place a plan to paint the buildings. I'd love to say that's going to be done by the end of the semester. Unfortunately, it does rain a little bit here, so it'll probably start in the spring or the summer, but we are working on that plan now. We also just accepted moving a Building 800 modernization forward a year early. So we will have an opportunity to get a team together to redesign what Building 800 looks like.
Wow.
So that it's meeting the needs of the faculty and students who use those spaces moving forward. We've created more channels to communicate, both with faculty and staff and with students. We're doing that through Zoom currently because that's our option in the situation that we're in. But we're trying to make sure that we are having open conversations so that everybody's on the same page. Everybody understands that we're trying to be Yuba College proud. We're trying to establish a shared understanding for our students. I'm also taking time to meet with the community to better understand how they perceive the work that we're doing here at the college, and if we're meeting their needs, if we are providing them with graduates who are ready to take on the jobs that are available here, or if there need to be more development opportunities for community members to continue to interact with us.
Gotcha. As a STEM major, I can't help but ask about that 800 building project. Do you know the kind of timeline that has right now?
Sure. So we expect that project to be done somewhere around 2023. Okay. I think that's after you graduate. I know that's probably
I personally hope so.
a little disappointing, but it does take a little longer through the state process to make sure that we are putting in a fair process to design the buildings and award those contracts. The facilities use team will start meeting here within the month to outline what our requirements are for what Building 800 will look like, and then that plan will move forward in the spring. By next fall, we should award the contract so that we can start construction soon after.
That should be exciting.
Yeah, it should.
I hope so. Now, let's move on to a different topic here. Regarding how this semester has started out with a national pandemic and fires and a completely odd semester compared to previous ones, how do you think this college has responded in creating a curriculum and going on with the semester through these strange times? How do you think we have done so far, and how do you think we can improve on it in the future?
Sure. So, the initial reaction to the pandemic in particular happened before I got here, and so I can tell you from the outsider's perspective, the college, I think, took the appropriate reactions to say there's something that's happening that's impacting the safety and health of our students, faculty, and staff. They took a short period of time to close operations and decide what needed to happen, and then created a plan moving forward because our mission, our goal is to make sure that students are learning, and they needed to get back to learning from there. The college has worked hand in hand with the Bi-County Health Officer to best understand what we can do to try and keep moving that mission forward. It's meant that we've had to be innovative. We've had to create opportunities for students to receive services no longer face-to-face for a period of time, and now some opportunities face-to-face, but doing that on a rotating basis so that everyone stays healthy and safe. So I've really appreciated all of the staff that have really leaned into understanding they still need to deliver a service to students, but now in a new way, and they have to be prepared for that to continue to change. What we know, especially here in Yuba and Sutter counties, is that health picture can look really good for a period of time, and then it can look a little bit bad. And so they've had to be very flexible about how they're delivering those services to students. And at the same time, the students are also going through that flexibility. They went from attending classes face-to-face to a period of time where the college was closed, a period of time where there were some opportunities for face-to-face, but largely online, and then moving to almost exclusively online, which can be a challenge. What's important when you're moving through issues like that is for everyone to lean into that challenge and say, how can I be a part of the solution? And we've seen some great examples of that. Our IT staff have leaned into making laptops and Chromebooks available. They've extended the Wi-Fi into the parking lot so that students can park in their car and access Wi-Fi, here from the campus as well as from the Sutter Center. They've made Wi-Fi hotspots available to students, and that's being a part of the solution as we move through that. Students too. I'm a frequent person on the Yuba College app, and I've seen students share tips and ideas with each other through the Yuba College app, and I know that's happening outside of that as well, but also messages of encouragement. This is a challenge for all of us. No one asked for this. It's just the situation we find ourselves in, and it's getting a little bit tiring, right? It's almost 6 months into what's been a little bit of a challenge, and sometimes we can be ready to give up, but I've been really impressed not only by students but by faculty and staff saying we need to keep moving forward through this, finding ways to lean on each other, give each other a little bit of grace, to remember to be as kind as we can because we're all dealing with some challenging situations, but seeking a solution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you think through all these unprecedented times and the responses that the college has had to go through, that this college has learned any new skills or procedures that you plan on keeping in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've learned that we can help students to learn certain concepts online that maybe we didn't think that we could. I think that we have had an opportunity to expose some faculty to the methods of distance education and to Canvas, and I think that will help them to be better instructors in the future. Partially because if they are able to return to face-to-face, they'll have options for students who run into some of life's challenges and can't be there face-to-face for certain concepts. I think that our student services have learned that a lot of their processes can be done online, whether that's via phone or via email or via a web form, and I think those things will create space for future opportunities for new innovations or new concepts or to make things work better. I think we have to see those wins and say, hey, this really worked. Make sure that it still got our students and us to where we needed it to be, and then think about making those permanent. And I know that we're having conversations about that now, about how we might be able to continue to function in some of these ways moving forward that makes space for us to be able to do more.
Okay. If I backtrack just a little bit, what was your former role in the college that you worked at before coming to Yuba?
Yeah, sure. So I was the Vice President of Strategic Development permanently at Clover Park Technical College, and I was in an interim role as the Vice President of Instruction.
Okay.
So I'd been at Clover Park for about 8 years, just shy of 8 years. I had done everything from the foundation and marketing to human resources and negotiations, institutional outcomes and accreditation, and then had stepped into a role as our instructional vice president, overseeing our deans and our faculty and our programs specifically.
Okay. So in your role as a vice presidency there, how has these COVID, for a general summation of how things have changed, from being vice president in a pre-COVID world to now being president here in a COVID world, what significant changes have you had to implement in your routine, in your practices in serving students?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing is communication. We're used to sharing information when life was normal. We're used to sharing information in a certain way, and it gets comfortable. We know we're going to see students on certain days at certain times and see them in certain ways. Now it looks different. We have to be much more communicative, and we have to seek new ways to communicate with students. We're no longer going to see them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:10 in our classroom. But we still need to be, making sure that they're getting that information, especially when you're in the middle of an emergency. Information is incredibly important when things are changing and swirling. You need to know what you need to know in order to be able to handle the issues that are in front of you. And so I would say our communication with students has been something we've definitely had to change as a community college system, but also, here at Yuba College to make sure students are getting the information they need to be ready for class or whatever's coming around the corner.
Thank you. If I may ask, do you have any advice for our Yuba College students, both returning and new students, trying to balance everything through this semester?
Yeah. Well, I think the first is to give yourself and those people around you both grace and to seek ways to be kind. I think that when you are in the middle of what has now been a long emergency, where you've been living in a little bit of a fight or flight world for a long period of time, you can get tired and you can be just a little bit more naturally angry and tired. And you have to remember, not only with yourself, but with the people that are around you, to try and give yourself some grace to understand that things aren't going to be easy. They're going to be a little bit harder, and not everything's going to work out the first time. But also to remember to be kind to yourself and the people that are around you, because they're also changing. And we're all trying to do our best as we work through and react to the situation that we're in. And if we can be kind to each other and a little flexible about making things work, I think that's the pathway through it, and the thing that I would certainly encourage students to do as they're moving through this situation.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this question because of restrictions in going about places, but what is your favorite place on campus?
My favorite place on campus? Yeah, it's hard because I don't get to get out as much. There are some really beautiful places, though, both at the Marysville campus and the Sutter campus. I like some of the artwork that you can see at the Sutter campus. They've taken some time to use some local artists to make that beautiful. I recently had an opportunity to go on a tour of our public safety complex area. And I am intrigued to have an opportunity to use the stairs on the fire tower to get back in shape. If I was dressed for it in the right way, look forward to trying to make it through the obstacle course someday too as well. I love being outside, and so Olive Hill, which I'm getting used to, has a great place to eat lunch where you can find a little bit of shade and a place to sit. So that you can enjoy your meal outside. But I also just love going for walks and enjoying the sun and seeing the few people that I get to see around here when I can.
It's hopefully being able to see more people on campus in the future.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
You bet.
Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
I would love to.